My fellow Americans and autists who voted for Trump, it's your boy Dank Brandon here. I want to take a moment to congratulate the DNC on losing another election to Donald Trump. You replaced me with a candidate who has the same likability as Greasy, hobo taint and expected to win, and they say I'm the retarded one. The Democrats said that I was too old, that I was too slow, that I was a joke. Well, here's a joke for you. What do Willie Brown and the 2024 presidential election have in common? Kamala Harris blew both of them. I shouldn't have said that. But seriously, I mean, first Hillary loses to Donald and now Kamala. This man has beaten more women than Doug Emhoff. Anyways, congrats on losing to Hitler again. I hope he locked you all up this time. Dank Brandon out.
Can we not let Fox News off the hook, please?
I don't understand.
And Newsmax and all the fake news that's been going out there. You know, one of the things that we need to do, and it's not to abolish the Department of Education. As a former teacher, believe me, he's talking about doing that.
Yes.
You know, kids in, I brought this up before, I'm going to bring it up again. In Finland, kids in nursery school are learning to discern between fake news and real news.
Yeah.
They should be teaching that in this country.
Yeah.
Teach children tolerance, teach them to think critically.
Well, it would help if we could regulate social media, because one of the biggest offenders is D.C. and Congress have not been able to do one thing in regard to the rogue corporations of social media.
It's not going to get any better with Elon Musk now in the administration.
Oh, that intro of Joe Biden. I put it in both videos that are out today. I do not get tired of seeing it. Whoever did it, it's awesome. My favorite part, minus the actual win of Donald Trump, has been watching the woke lefties absolutely have meltdown. This, to me, is just ultra satisfying because it's been years in the waiting. They're getting their comeuppance. Let's get it.
So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
See the numbers that Joe Biden had in the suburbs, and I think we have to be blunt about why. Black voters came through for Kamala Harris. White women voters did not. That is what it appears happened in that state, is that if you can't flip enough white women, and we've talked about this on this set numerous times, is that you have a state where you've got a 6-week abortion or a 12-week abortion. I think theirs might be 12 weeks.
Yep.
But it's a state where women lost their reproductive rights, where there was a very heavy push to get women to focus on not putting in place, re-electing, putting back into the White House the person who was responsible for taking those rights away and restoring them. But that message obviously was not enough to get enough white women to vote for Vice President Harris, a fellow woman. This will be the second opportunity that white women in this country have to change the way that they interact with the patriarchy. And, you know, God bless Shannon Watts, who has tried to have that conversation. But if people aren't...
Because I'm thinking about the people who are not a part of anybody's elite who are hurting tonight. There are African-American women who know a little bit about being talked down to and know a little bit about having their economic dreams crushed, who tried to dream a big dream over the past couple of months. And tonight they're trading in a lot of hope for a lot of hurt. And they were hoping that maybe this time, one of their own could be seen as worthy. And once again, they're facing rejection. And that hurts. They thought tomorrow morning they're going to walk out with their shoulders back a little bit, maybe able to breathe for the first time and feel like they belong someplace. They did everything that they knew how to do. And it's going to be harder than it should be tomorrow for them to hold their heads up. And they're not the only people who are hurting tonight. If you're a parent of a trans kid, your child's face was used as a springboard to power for somebody. That doesn't feel good. There are going to be people tomorrow, we're going to be handing clothes at the dry cleaners to people who don't have papers. There are going to be people who are going to be cleaning your teeth tomorrow who don't have papers. And they're terrified tonight. And so it's easy to blow this off. Oh, look at the elites. They're going to get their comeuppance. It's not the elite that's going to pay the price. It's people who woke up this morning with a dream and are going to bed with a nightmare. And those people deserve to be respected and held and talked to those are the people who are going to pay the price for whatever Donald Trump decides to do.
Yeah, but Van, how do we know that those people didn't vote? A large portion of those people aren't part of the people that elected Donald Trump.
Well,
right? I think that's a good part of the electorate. And the black women, the party, the Democratic Party, let those black women down. Not Donald Trump.
I don't know. I'm profoundly disturbed. I think if you look at the New York Times this morning, the headline was "America makes a perilous choice." I think that in 2016, we didn't know what we would get from a Trump administration, but we know now. And we know now that he will have almost unfettered power. And so I worry, not about myself, actually. I don't worry about my station in life. I worry about the working class. I worry about my mother, a retired teacher. I worry about our elderly and their Social Security and their Medicare. I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have. And I remember my father telling me many, many years ago that I was the first person in his family to enjoy full civil rights. And now I have less civil rights than I had when he told me that. So again, I'm profoundly disturbed that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution did not prevent someone who participated in an insurrection from becoming president of the United States. I think that going forward, the convicted felon box on employment applications better be taken off, because if you can be the president of the United States, then you should not be prevented from employment in this country, because I remember applying for my jobs as a federal prosecutor, and there was a box for convicted felons.
Well,
and so that box better be taken off. And I think our healthcare system is now at risk. I think
no fluoride for anyone.
Yeah, economists have made clear that he's going to increase the debt by $7.75 trillion. I'm worried about mass deportation and internment camps, and I'm also worried about Elon Musk warning Americans to prepare for temporary hardship. I'm surprised at the result, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed-race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Well, I think it...
Oh, the girls from The View in denial already. The next clip you're going to watch here is Joy Reid, again, blaming poor people or blaming white women for Kamala Harris not winning. Somebody needs to check on Joy Reid. I'm sure that right now, hours after this, she ain't doing so good. Let's get it.
I think we also forget that we are a 60% on a good year turnout country. There are a lot of people, especially low wealth people. You know, this is the Bishop Barber thing he talks about all the time on our shows, is that poor and low wealth people actually don't vote for the most part. They normally sit it out. And so there's a checking out of the system and saying, I'm not receiving economic benefits. College loan forgiveness doesn't impact me. And so people are actually, in some cases in this country, backing out of voting altogether. So I think there's a tendency to think it's poor people voting against their best interests, when in many cases, poor people aren't voting at all. And so they're just not a part of the system. And so what you have is higher net worth and higher education voters voting versus rural working class voters. But just remember, working class does not mean poor. You can be working class, meaning you're a non-college voter, but you actually have, you know, a second home somewhere in, you know, the Hamptons, and you work in a plumbing business, and you have you're not necessarily poor. So I think we have to be careful in characterizing it as necessarily low-wage people voting against their interests and figuring out how to get them in the system at all.
These Democratic leaders are simpletons. They're servants of the donor class. So they go in there, they're like, oh, donor, give me money, please. And I made an ad. I'm Kamala Harris. I'm full of joy. Okay, well, what did that get you? And they say, oh, Jake, you're too angry. Too angry? What? You think, does Donald Trump look like he's kind? Does he look like he's in a good mood? I mean, no, people want some sort of reaction from their politicians. They want them to represent them, to fight for them. But that has never occurred to a Democrat outside of Bernie Sanders, and probably we never will. So look, I have no interest in listening to a single Democratic politician ever again. They can go kiss my ass. They can do whatever they want, and we never listen to them anyway, and they hate us because we're right and they're wrong. They're always wrong, and they hate us for being right, okay? So, but they're not gonna learn. You have to beat them in a primary, that's your only hope. And so if you say it's super hard to beat them in a primary because of the lying sons of bitches on mainstream media who will smear you to no end, who will fight harder against progressives and populists than Republicans or Donald Trump or anyone else, well, brothers and sisters, nobody said life was fair. So we gotta go fight that mainstream media. We gotta destroy that mainstream media that is filled with lies on top of lies about how the politicians are so honest and the donors have no control over policy. They have 100% control over policy. Everyone in mainstream media is a liar who goes, oh, well, here's a bill. Well, I'm not gonna talk about the donors at all. Oh, I think they're having an ideological debate. Oh, look at that. The donor class won the ideological debate again, but I won't call them the donor class. I won't tell you that it's corporate Republicans and corporate Democrats that are playing good cop and bad cop against you the entire time. So these Democratic leaders are the most useless people on earth. If they're not all fired, the Democratic Party is out of its mind. So as the voters, you have to understand, those guys have a vested interest in protecting their own ass and protecting their money and their privilege and their status. You need to fire them. They're not gonna fire themselves. You think Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Kamala Harris, and all these people go, oh yeah, I got Jamie Harrison at DNC. Oh yeah, I guess we were the problem. You think the Democratic consultant class that have been robbing you blind this entire time is gonna go, oh, I guess we were the problem. No, you have to fire them. So the next time that some son of a bitch on MSNBC or in the Democratic Party tells you, oh no, be a good boy and girl, be civil and vote for Democratic leaders. They know what they're doing. Those are the same goddamn liars that told you that Joe Biden was totally fine, that he was young and he was dynamic behind the scenes, and it wasn't a problem at all. At that point, he was down 8 points nationally. He was getting slaughtered. He was down by 18 in Iowa, and I could go on and on. They've been lying to you the whole time. If you're on the left, you're a Democratic voter. Wakey, wakey. I need to wake you up out of the hypnosis that you're in, that Morning Joe and The View and all of mainstream media has put you in. They're lying to you. Why do you think they keep losing? Do you think they keep telling you how smart they are and how they're gonna deliver you victories? And all they ever do is deliver loss after loss after loss. So Democratic voters, snap out of it. These guys are obvious liars. Fire them all. Fire them all. And if you don't, okay, then keep losing to buffoons, to obvious con men like Donald Trump. Keep losing and losing and losing and never figuring it out. Here, I solved it for you. I figured it out. It's a goddamn corruption. All the stupid donor money, all it's ever done is lead to more losses. So if you don't fire them, you have no one to blame but yourself. Young Turks will be back.
Well, and that's what makes the timing, I think, of President Biden's decision to step down after the debate something that, if she does in fact lose, will be under a microscope, because of course there was so much discussion even over the summer about potentially having an open primary and having that fight play out within the Democratic Party. So I think it's one of the big questions moving forward.
And these people make excuses crumble with all the money that they put behind Kamala Harris, all the celebrities, all the mainstream media on her side, and yet that's what happens when your candidate sucks balls. Hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button. Everybody, consider subscribing to the channel. Help it grow. Catch you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.